May the flowers remind us why the rain was so necessary. Hello and welcome to the Patience to Prosperity podcast, where we learn how to act in opposition of our limiting beliefs in order to reach our fullest potential. I am your host, Lizzie Arduino, and I'm so excited to jump into today's topic with you guys. Today we're going to be talking about the concept of survival mode, what that really means, how to not fall victim to it, how to get out of that, and reach this dreaming mindset that is inherently inside of all of us. But when we're in that survival mode, it's very hard to understand and to really know what our dreams really are. So without further ado, let's get started. So I first just want to talk about survival mode in its nature, what it really means, and what it looks like. For a while, I was living in survival mode. And of course, it happened to be around the time where my mental health was struggling as well. You know, I was going through a really long episode of depression. My anxiety was controlling most of my life, and I felt really trapped inside my own head. And of course, at this time, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life, who I even was, what I wanted to be. I knew none of that because I didn't even have the energy to pour any thoughts into such deep things like that, because my brain was so wired constantly with these negative thoughts coming in that there was no room for any glimpse of hope that something better would be coming out of this dark place. And I think this is something that no one really talks about, but so many of us are either experiencing or have experienced at some point. And as I'm someone who has been able to get out of this survival mode, I want to be able to shed light on this mindset and really just give reassurance that you won't always be in survival mode forever. You will get to the point where you're living presently every single day and you feel more fulfilled than you ever have in your entire life because you're doing things that align to you that you never even knew did before. And I can recall the exact moment where I realized that I was so full of dreams. And it wasn't until that moment that I started living fully. I remember sitting on my porch at home and I was journaling, and I opened a page and just started listing all the dreams that I had in my head. After getting really deep into a journal entry that had a lot to do with self-discovery and how I spent my entire life not really knowing who I was because I was so trapped inside my own head the entire time, and I was falling victim to people pleasing and all of these things that really just pull you away from authenticity and take you away from who you really are. And so I never really knew who I was. I never gave myself the chance to meet her. So as I was writing in my journal, I started listing these dreams, and at this point, you know, like they took a little time to think of. It wasn't like I was just popping them out one after the other. And there was still those limiting beliefs in the back of my head. There was still a little bit of doubt that was rising and saying, oh, but how are you ever going to be able to do that? But when I released that judgment and I told myself, no, we're not going to think about how far it's going to take to get there. We're not going to think about how hard it's going to be, all of the steps that you have to take. Just simply list the things that would light a fire in your soul, the things that you so badly want to accomplish one day and want to become one day. And when I did that, when I released those judgments and those limiting beliefs, that's when I was able to actually let my mind free and let these creative ideas just flow. I think it's really important to note that we will not be in survival mode forever. We'll eventually reach a point where it's unbearable and we'll have no choice but to change the way we are and the way we're living our lives. because survival mode is a place that has to be temporary in order to fully live a life. You know, listening to this firsthand, if you've experienced survival mode before, or if you're there right now, that it's incredibly hard to just do everyday simple tasks or things that would be deemed simple to someone that's not in this mindset. It is incredibly difficult because your mind is constantly being mean to you. Your mind is constantly feeding you negativity, and you just have this tunnel vision where it's limiting your ability to actually live presently, which is how we actually find happiness. So now I'm starting to realize, now that I'm in this place where I'm not experiencing survival mode and I'm full of this dream mindset and I'm in the best place that I've been in ever in my life, I started realizing that now I have a shit ton of health anxiety because I actually want to be alive and I'm scared of anything bad happening to me that will be detrimental to my health. But I think it honestly, in some ways, is so beautiful because it's proven to myself that I have this newfound appreciation for life. Like, I want to be alive. I want to be here, and it scares me to have that taken away from me. I think a lot of the times when we reach this awareness of our mindsets being in survival mode, we often try to do too much at once to try to get ourselves out of it. And then inevitably we end up failing, we end up crashing and reaching burnout because we can't adapt to that much change all at once. I think it takes like 6 months to create an actual behavior that we stick with. And obviously when you're in the survival mode, you're not competent enough to stick with something for that long because you don't even have belief or hope in yourself for reaching that in the first place. You're kind of just throwing things and seeing what sticks. So we have to slowly make these changes to get out of survival mode before we reach our breaking point and before we reach burnout, because when we do too much at once and when we try to change things all at once, it always will lead to burnout. We have to realize what things we're changing and become clear with why we're changing them, how we're going to do that, what it looks like, and slowly increase that intensity, just like we would with exercising. You don't go from not working out at all to pushing yourself through a 3-hour workout every single day, because then inevitably you're going to give up on yourself and say, this is way too hard, I hate this, I'm not doing it anymore. Because it's much easier to just not do it at all, isn't it? So understand that you're not falling behind when you go at your own pace. Because I think we just don't understand that everyone around us who seems to be going really fast and is rapidly just moving up the bar, they're actually victims of survival mode. They're probably reaching burnout so often and we are just unaware of it because obviously no one talks about burnout. No one is openly posting on social media that they're burnt out and that everything that they just tried to change just went in the gutter because now they're burnt out from it and they don't know what to do. No one is doing that. No one's openly expressing that. So just remember, as the season is all about planting seeds, and I like to bring in this naturistic aspect because I find metaphorical thinking a lot easier to put things into perspective. Think of it in the sense that you're planting seeds that will prosper and grow something that would never be able to be done if you were too impatient to wait and ended up overwatering them, trying to get the fastest results possible, because when we overwater plants, they end up dying. Nature does not rush, yet everything ends up getting done. Nature works in seasons, right? We have fall, winter, spring, and summer. We are not rushing these seasons. It is taking its time to get to those seasons. There is not a specific day every single year that all of a sudden the weather changes and it's 90 degrees and it's summer. It is not that exact same day every single year, even though we put on our calendars that it's June whatever or July whatever. I don't even know when the start of summer truly is. But we have on our calendars that there's this marked day that's when summer begins. But we don't really feel as though it's summer until we get that 80-degree heat, right? So nature's taking its time. It's doing its thing. It's not letting anything rush it. Yet the seasons still change. The leaves still fall from the tree and they grow again. And things bloom in the spring. And then it gets really hot in the summer. Like, all of these things still happen. When we're living in this survival mode, we're just like living to check things off of a to-do list. We're getting so lost in what we should be doing that we don't ever actually rest. And I think that we're in a time now where this hustle culture is so evident. We're constantly being taught and being shown that we should be doing so much all the time, that we forget how important rest is. But you have to understand that if we're not letting ourselves rest and we're just going and going and going, that's when we reach that burnout. That's when we're doing too much at once. Sometimes you need to just sit and do nothing, and that is completely okay. But it's not okay when you sit and do nothing and you guilt yourself into believing that you should be doing something else. If you make the decision that what you need is to sit down and do nothing, or sit down and watch a show or read a book or do something other than the extensive work that you've been doing all day, you're not actually resting when you're letting yourself feel guilty for not doing something quote unquote productive. So this rest is counteractive because we're actually just living in this anxiety and this guilt and fear that we should be doing something else. So just recognize that our body needs rest, and rest is vital for our growth. We have to understand that rest is also productive because we're looking out for our future selves by giving our present selves what it needs to thrive. Remember that. We're looking out for our future selves by giving our present selves what it needs to thrive. And the only reason that we don't abide to this is because we are so stuck in this survival mindset that is our ego trickling in, telling us that our time is just going by the second. That if we're not doing something productive right now, then we're just lazy and we don't care enough. When in reality, by asking yourself what you need when we're feeling super anxious and when we sense burnout coming, by letting ourselves sit down and truly just honing into our thoughts and asking our body what it needs in this current moment, that is our way of showing self-love to ourselves. That is our way of telling ourselves that we trust ourselves and we trust that we will still reach the goals that we want to reach, but we need to take these moments to ourselves, these moments of rest, in order to get to that point. Slow and steady wins the race, right? It's not the people who are rushing to the end that are always going to win. You're actually learning so much more when you give yourself more time to accomplish things. So don't rush these moments of growth. Don't rush these moments that are given to us for us to learn more about ourselves and the world around us. Listen to your body when it whispers so that you're not forced to listen to it when it screams. When I heard this quote, let me tell you, it changed my entire life. The survival mindset has us living in a constant state of fight or flight, and we continuously fall victim to tunnel vision. Because when we're living to survive, we're never living presently. We're just running ourselves dry. We're looking at at the end of that tunnel instead of absorbing every single moment that's happening right now that is helping us reach that light at the end of the tunnel. So when we tell ourselves, it's okay that I'm not happy now because when I get to where I want to be, then I'll know happiness. This mindset is just destined to fail us. This is just our ego taking over, thinking that everything is going to fall into place magically by doing all of these things, instead of working to live in the present moment and to learn from the present moment. Because when we're not enjoying the process and doing things that bring us joy on a daily basis, we will never truly be satisfied with the outcome, because the journey that it takes to get you somewhere is so much more important than the outcome. So a thing that helped me a lot with enjoying where I'm at and learning to appreciate the process, no matter how hard it can be sometimes, was trying to rephrase my thoughts whenever they came in. So whenever something arose in the sense where I would say, oh, this is happening to me, I would rephrase that to this is happening for me. Because I knew that the good or the bad that were coming in while I was working towards a bigger goal, or while I was trying to reframe my mindset or get out of this survival mode, I knew that even the most challenging things that were coming up were happening for me. Because like I said at the beginning of this episode, our beginning quote was, "May the flowers remind us why the rain was so necessary." So without the rain, there would be no flowers. Without constant rain, we wouldn't know what sunshine feels like. We wouldn't know how good sunshine feels without that rain. So become aware that everything is happening for us in this world. We're always right where we're meant to be, because if we weren't, we'd be somewhere else. And this is a phrase that I will probably repeat to you in every single episode, because I say it in my own head at least 4 times a day. It really just helps ground me and remind me that I don't have to be so anxious all the time, and I don't have to be running to do something else constantly and thinking that I'm in the wrong moment. No, you're right where you're meant to be, because if you weren't, you'd be somewhere else. So coming back to that, this is happening for me, not to me. The universe is always looking out for us. But when we're in survival mode, it can't be focused on the bigger picture and that bigger goal that we have in mind that we're trying to work towards, because there's so much growth that we have to endure first in order to fully appreciate the outcome. Like I said, no rain, no flowers. We can't be on that beach living in our dream homes or working our dream job, whatever, at this current moment, because we don't yet know how to fully appreciate them as much as we may think we do. And this had me thinking, we often see that a lot of celebrities come out saying that they're super unhappy in life and they're really depressed. And we'll even see some celebrities that have committed suicide. And our first initial thought is, how could you possibly be so sad in a life that brings you so much abundance? You have everything you've ever needed. You have all the money that you could ever want in this world. How could you be unhappy? And obviously that hits on the money buys happiness sort of thing. But I think that the real reason why we see so many celebrities that have everything they'd ever dreamed of, yet are the unhappiest they've ever been, is because from the very start of their careers, they had tunnel vision that never truly allowed them to appreciate the mediocre jobs that they had to begin with, because they were so focused on blowing up. And I know that this is not true for every single celebrity, obviously, because everyone's journey is different, but I'm just talking about the ones that kind of knew from a young age that they were working towards this bigger career and this bigger goal of being this star and making a ton of money. which doesn't necessarily have to be just celebrities or just people that are in the public eye, but anyone that has reached some sort of success, if they've had tunnel vision in the beginning and they were only ever focused on the outcome and never appreciated their journey, that's why they're experiencing this unhappiness and this unfulfillment constantly. So moving on to the next topic I want to talk about is this dreaming mindset that I mentioned in the beginning. I think I am definitely in more of a dreaming mindset right now than I ever have been, at least from my teenage years. Because I know when we're kids, I feel like we're big dreamers because we're not judging ourselves yet. You know, like we're just openly telling other people, oh, I want to be a firefighter. Oh, I want to be a pop star. That's the kind of things that we would say to other people when we were younger without even thinking, giving it a second thought, because it didn't matter. That's what we wanted to do. That's what we thought was cool and that we liked and could see ourselves doing. So that's what we told people. When I think of dreaming mindset, I just think of embracing our own capabilities. You're embracing the fact that you believe you're capable of reaching that thing. So it's this notion of becoming more involved with life and less attached to it. Because when we're living in survival mode, we kind of have no idea what our actual dreams are. But now that I have become clear of the dreams and the aspirations that I do have, I'm taking steps gradually and progressively to set myself up for inevitable success. And I want to highlight that word, inevitable, because your success is inevitable when you get into this dreaming mindset. And even when you're in that survival mode, you just don't realize it yet. But especially when we're in this dreaming mindset, our success is inevitable because we know that when we take these steps and we're not burning ourselves out and we know how to avoid this burnout, then we are going to reach that goal that we have set for ourselves. So doing the work that it takes to get you there is a form of self-love, and it proves to you how much you actually care about yourself and how much you care enough to believe that your future success will result from the actions that you're taking right now. That's a form of self-love. That's a form of self-trust, like I said in the beginning. You're trusting that these steps that you're taking will get you where you need to go. And that is the highest form of frequency and vibration that we can put out into that universe, because when we tell the universe that we trust that everything that comes in for us right now and everything that's happening for us is setting us up for success and it's working for us, then we're going to get all the abundance and all the things that we want and that we need in our life. And it's hard when we're in survival mode because we don't actually realize what brings us joy and what lights us up. Because the things that maybe do bring us joy only last for so long before we get stuck in our heads again. So we kind of put labels on everything, telling ourselves that nothing truly lights us up. Nothing truly lights a fire inside of us. We're living in this like hopeless mindset where we think there's no hope for us. We don't see a future for ourselves. It's hard for us to look a few years down the line even, because we're not even excited about getting up tomorrow and the possibilities and the opportunities that come with waking up every day. We don't yet know how incredibly beautiful that is and grateful that we should be for that. We can't truly find gratitude for that yet because we don't believe it. So when we're in survival mode and we're not living presently, we're not present enough to even recognize when our mood is elevated or depleted. We're constantly in just this fluctuating state where everything just feels wrong. Everything feels wrong. Even feeling good for a few seconds, we have in the back of our head that it's not going to last. But in the same time, we tell ourselves that this pain is going to last forever. When in reality, no emotion actually is permanent. Emotions are fleeting. Emotions are not meant to stick around for long. Emotions are meant to be felt and then detached from. You're not supposed to always feel happy. You're not supposed to always feel sad. It's part of the human experience to feel an array of emotions every day throughout our lives. I consider myself a happy person at this stage in my life, but does that mean that I don't have moments of sadness or anxiety or fear? No, of course I'm gonna have those moments. But now that I have this appreciation for life and I actually have learned to appreciate every emotion that comes up because I know that it's serving me good and I know how to feel it and then detach from it, it doesn't stick around for as long and it doesn't fully consume me anymore. So when I understood that dreaming was a privilege that we get to do in this life, it really helped me create this gratitude towards life that I didn't have when I was in survival mode, because what did I have to be grateful for? Obviously, I had so much to be grateful for, and it made me feel guilty almost because I knew that I had a roof over my head and I had a family that loved me and I had friends that supported me and I had all of these things that so many people dream of and wish that they could have. And I knew that I was so fortunate. But it made me feel even worse and even more guilty when I would think about the things that I should be grateful for, and I know that I am grateful for, but still feel this sadness, because I would tell myself, well, you have so much already, like, how could you be sad? Like, you have things that so many people wish they had, and yet you're sad about life. You don't want to be here. You feel like life is pointless and worthless. And once I realized that being alive in itself was a privilege, because I think dreaming and being alive are one of the same. When we truly are living a life where we are alive and we are not just surviving, that is when that dreaming comes in. So dreams correlate to opportunities, and opportunities are privileges. When things arise in our lives that give us some sort of foot in the door and some change of direction, that is an opportunity in itself. And we have to understand that we will not always be the hardest worker, even when we're giving it all we got. We're not always going to be the hardest worker. And that's something that's a little hard to grasp. But there's also times where we will be the hardest worker and we still don't get granted the opportunity that we are searching for and hoping for. And this is not to make us believe that we don't deserve the things that we earn or the opportunities that come with the hard work that we exert and have gotten in the past. But it's not always the hardest worker that gets the opportunity. It's the one who is open to receiving. Because if we are working our butts off and we're putting our absolute maximal energy into something, but we're not fully opening our hearts to receiving this thing, and we don't really, truly, full-heartedly believe that we deserve the things that are coming from it, then we're not going to be granted that opportunity. We not only have to be open to receiving the blessings in life, but we also have to be open to receiving the hardship that comes with those blessings. Again, understanding that with no rain, there would be no opportunity to grow flowers. So as we reach the last topic that I want to talk about today, I just kind of want to touch on just the concept of being open to opportunity and accepting it with gratitude and trust and open arms. Because I think a lot of the times we tell ourselves that we're not ready for this thing that's coming. This opportunity that just came into our lives, we're not ready for it yet because we have to do this, that, and the other thing. When in reality, if you weren't ready, you wouldn't be given that opportunity in the first place. When we're handed opportunities in life, that's the universe or God or whatever you believe in telling us that we're ready for this thing. We're handed this because we're meant to go down this path and we're meant to learn something from it. And that's not to say that we still don't have a decision to make every time an opportunity comes up, because you do still decide whether to take it or leave it. And either path that we take can lead us to beautiful destinations, of course. But just that opportunity arising in the first place is telling you that you're ready for it. And it's up to you to take that if you feel aligned to it. So know that there is no right or wrong time to begin something. We simply set these limits on ourselves to procrastinate starting because we know that starting is always the hardest part. And we just make things out to be 10 times harder by avoiding them and waiting until we have no option but to face them. Procrastinating is something that I want to do a whole episode on, and I can talk about for so long because it's something that we all fall victim to. We all procrastinate things in our life. Whether we label ourselves as a procrastinator or not, there are always things in our life that we have procrastinated and will procrastinate in our life. Because sometimes it's hard for us to just accept that it's going to take a little effort. But whenever we procrastinate something, we're just making it so much harder for ourselves than it has to be. Just think about the amount of times that we've put off doing something like washing the dishes or doing laundry. And then once we actually do them, we realize it took 5 minutes to do that thing. It took 5 minutes out of our day. Yet we spent 2 days thinking about it, 2 days letting it consume our minds, letting it put us in this infinite spiral of anxiety because it was always subconsciously in the back of our minds, even when we were trying to rest. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we feel like we can never truly rest when we have so many things to still do. So maybe we just have to stop procrastinating those little things that we're putting off and do those things and then reward ourselves with that rest afterwards. Tell ourselves, now I do not have to feel guilty at all for sitting down and taking this time for myself. So like I mentioned, there's no right or wrong time to begin something. And there's no right or wrong way of doing things in life. I think we always tell ourselves that this is not the right way of doing it. Oh, I should be doing it this way. When in reality, like, what is right and wrong really? Is there a rule book somewhere that is telling you that you have to do something at this exact time every single day in order to be successful? No, absolutely not. We're constantly living in divine timing when we're living presently. Everything is happening exactly when and how it's supposed to, and we have to trust that. When we tell ourselves that there's a right or wrong of doing things, that's when failure fosters. That's when failure comes up, because we think that there was a better way of doing something. And sometimes there is. Sometimes we could have handled a situation better than we might have. But you didn't know better at the time. Everyone is always just doing the best that they possibly can in the situation that they're handed. And I think that's something that we often look past, because we're hard on ourselves, we're our biggest critics. We're always going to look at that other door that might have opened and wonder what it would have been like if we walked through that one instead of the one that we did. Because we always think that the other option was going to be easier when we're faced with some challenges. When in reality, it might not actually have been easier, it was just different. It was just different. And there are different types of hard. There are things that will come up in your life that feel incredibly hard, but to someone else are the easiest thing that they could ever imagine going through. You know what I mean? Like, it all has to do with your own perception and your own past experiences that you've been through. So stop being so freaking hard on yourself. Stop telling yourself that you failed before you've even really given that opportunity the chance to grow, before you've even watered it. Failure will never break our hearts as much as letting a passion die inside of us because we never gave it the fuel it needed to burn. There are lessons tied to every failed opportunity. Sometimes being that The opportunity was never meant for us in the first place, but we needed that opportunity to teach us what actually does align with us instead. So just understanding that even sometimes the bad things that happen to us are happening for us because there's a lesson attached to every single thing that happens in our lives. I like to look at opportunities as blank slates of paper. It is fully in your power to create something meaningful that only has to make sense to you. When we draw something on a piece of paper, or we write poetry, or we journal about something, that only has to make sense to you. If we deem it beautiful and we deem it insightful, or whatever adjective you want to use, that is all that matters. It does not matter what other people think about it. That is not what deems it beautiful. So that is all for today's episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. You've mastered survival mode. Now it's time to live. It's time to fully be alive. I really hope that you can take into consideration what I've said today and understand that we all have a superpower in this world, and that is that we are not like anyone else. Your superpower is that you are you and no one else is you. That is your superpower. So maybe open your journal today and tell yourself that you're going to write down some dreams in mind without placing any judgment, and see what comes up. And then maybe journal about it and write an entry about those things and why you think they came up and where they stemmed from. Because when I opened my journal for that first time and I let myself dream and I let my dreams really just come out on that paper, a lot of the stuff that came up, I had no idea were even there to begin with because I never gave them any fuel. And also a lot of the things that came up were things from my childhood that I pushed off when I started maturing because that judgment came in that I didn't have in my youth, and that judgment pushed those dreams away from mine and told me that they weren't possible, so there's no point of giving them an extra thought. So I just really hope that you guys were able to get something from this episode. If you did, please share it with someone else, because whether we know it or not, everyone has experienced or is experiencing this survival mode, and it's really hard to get out of. And it's something that we don't really talk about. Feel free to shoot me a DM on the Patience to Prosperity Instagram. I'll have everything linked in the description of this episode so that you can further connect with me off of the podcast platforms. I just really appreciate you guys for listening today. And if you stuck around till the end, just thank you so much. I am so excited about this season and this new journey and being able to let other people know that they're heard and that they're not alone. It's just so powerful and so fulfilling to me. And I could not thank you enough for being a part of this journey with me. So until next week, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you.